In this video, I want to show you how to set up your grid using InDesign. InDesign is much more clear, much more simple to set up your margins, being that it's a page layout program. So we don't have to do any kind of guides or anything like that to set up our grid within the interior 5x5 compositions to be placed in a 15x20 black background working file. I've got that black background working file here because I want to do a demonstration. But right now, I want to show you how to set up these individual 5x5 compositions with a margin and a grid set to margin. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to InDesign right now. I'm just going to go to the menu across the top of the screen and say File, New, Document. And that new document dialog box is going to open. And when it does, we'll go ahead and show you how to set this up. Right now, it seems like, there we go. There's our new document dialog box. As soon as this thing catches up with me, I'll go ahead and show you. Here's our 5x5, right? Here's 5x5. Now, note the word margins right here. If I pop that open, you can see that we're in half-inch margins. And you can set those up right in the dialog box. That's great, right? So watch what happens when I hit Create. Here's your new document, 5x5, and there's the margin. So as you can see, InDesign makes things much more straightforward in terms of setting up margins in your documents. All right, at this point, I want to do it. We're going to set this. So this is layer 1. I'm going to call this layer, let's call this layer guides. We'll say okay, and I'm going to add another layer, and I'm going to call this layer background. We'll say okay. Okay, now in the background layer, what I want to do is I want to create a white background. Remember, so it'll be visible on the black working file. So what I'm going to do here is let's just go ahead and change that to black. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my color swatches, and we're going to select paper white for that. There it is right there. I'll come to my rectangle tool, and let's just go ahead and drag that white background. And there we go. There's our white background. I get rid of that swatches. There's our white background. Now I'm going to go back to my guides layer at this point, right there. And I'm going to set my guides up. Now, to do so, I'm just going to come up to the word layout across the top of the screen, and I'm going to say create guides. That's going to open this new create guides dialog box. And I note that you've got some options here to fit to margin or fit to page. Let me show you the difference in 1 second. I always fit to margin. I think it's much, much more straightforward. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure your preview is on. Let's go ahead and duplicate that 5x7 grid that we created in the Illustrator example. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, right? Note the gutter. InDesign gives you the option to add a gutter between your guidelines. Now, InDesign gives you the option to add the gutter. Illustrator doesn't. So if you want to add a gutter in Illustrator, remember it creates those individual triangles, and I think that's tremendously cumbersome. So right now I want to show you how to fit to margin, but I'm just going to reduce these gutters down to 0 just to be consistent with the Illustrator example. So there, we're down to 0. All right, there's your guide. There's your grid right there. Now, if I just want to take a second to mention that when you become more proficient with using grids, you'll start using gutters. So in other words, you'll use maybe an 1/8-inch gutter between, and that's going to add a little bit of additional padding. But right now, we're okay with no gutters just until you get the hang of using grids. Okay, so watch what happens. I note this is fit to margins, and we can see within the margin, the grid fits perfectly. Okay, if I set fit guides to page, see how it changes? Now it's set to the page, so the margins become pretty much a non-issue because they're not equal size squares within the grid. Okay, so I always keep fit to margins because I think it's much easier to preserve that padding created by that margin. So let's just say okay. And there we have it. There's our guides. No, if I turn that off, there's our guides. Let me go to the background layer right now. And in the background layer, what I'm going to do is I'm going just to create a little demonstration. So we'll just change that. Whoops, didn't want to do that. Well, let me just click off the artwork, and I'm going to select black. Okay, then I'm going to come to my rectangle tool, and I'll just do a quick little, let's say we're just going to place some elements. And just imagine this is your working 5x5 document for the muscle car assignment. Okay, so here's what we have, right? There we go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this out. Excuse me. I'm just going to save this out right now. At this point, I'll say File, Save. And we are going to call this my test. Okay, I'll save this out on my desktop. Illustrator document, I'm sorry, InDesign documents file. Let's just go ahead and save that out. And there it is. All right, now I'm going to go back to my working file. Here it is. And I'm going to place it. So I just come across InDesign. I come across the word, the file across the top menu. And I say File, Place. And now I just navigate out to that. What was that? What did I call that? My test. Okay, there it is. We'll open that guy. There it is. Place it. Boom. There we go. Then you just add your other three documents, 5x5, and there you have it. Save it out as a PDF and submit it. You're good to go. All right, so in summary here, we've showed you how to create create the guides to set the grid for set to the interior margin for the InDesign document.